Hello and welcome. In the last part, we created this modular pathway, and in this path, we'll try to UV unwrap it, and then finally, in the last video, we'll try to texture it. So let's begin. Okay, so this is where we left off in the last video. You can download the finished file from the previous video. So the way we are going to UV unwrap it is we'll consider that the path along the mesh that we created previously, that is the length of the whole path, and then the values or the width of the path is the another dimension of the UV map. So this will be one dimension of the UV map, and the other dimension is across the path. I hope this makes sense. So let's begin. So how we are going to get these values? These values will be provided to us with a spline parameters node. But before we add that, let's clean up our node tree a bit. So first, the main path along which the pathway is created, we need to store two attributes on that path. So first we need to store one of the dimension on the object as an attribute. So for that we need to add store attribute, store named attribute, and we can then provide it the curve, and our attribute name will be grade x. Grade x. Press enter to set it up. Let's add a spline parameter node. And provide the length as a value to the named attribute. Then the output of this node goes into all of the curves. So this is a much cleaner node tree. Now we have one of the dimensions saved on the object as an attribute named grade x. Now we need to get the other part, and this will be the factor of the spline curve. So let's shift these nodes to here along with the links, and let's add a store named attribute on this path. This name is going to be grad y, and the value comes from the spline parameters node. Let's add this to others as well. Here we go. Once we are done with this, we then need to set up the materials for each of the part of the pathway. Select the object and then go to materials. Let's create a new material. Let's name it to top. one more to bottom, another one to pipe, clamps, handrails, so we're good for now. Let's add the matching materials to the tree. Set material, and for the top part of the pathway, we're going to select the top material and repeat the process for all the other ones. So for the vertical poles and the pipe clamp, we are also going to do the same. We will need to create a material for vertical poles, so let's do that. And we already have a material for clamps. Let's select a vertical pole here and a pipe clamp here. Okay, once we are done with the geometry nodes, we should now have all the UV maps available inside the shader editor, and we have already assigned the materials to each part of the mesh. So let's go into the shading. Let's now import the attributes that we created. One we named as grad X, and another one was grad Y. Let's combine these two. X vector value goes to X and the other one goes to Y. Let's move these here and let's create an image texture. Let's connect the colors. If you have a Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can select the image and press Ctrl T to create the mapping. Let's delete this one, and we can connect this to our vector node. Let's create a texture. Let's call it UV map. It will be a 2048 by 2048, and let's create a color grid. Press OK, and you have something, but as you can see that this is not scaled correctly. Okay, so I made a mistake and I've incorrectly renamed this attribute as gradle. Let's use grad X, and now you can see that we are getting something. Let's go into the shading and let's scale this properly. This looks good. but you can notice that especially on the corners, and then somewhere along here we get these wobbly lines. The texture isn't displayed as smoothly as we'd like it to be. So that is because in the shapes, when we created the top layer, we didn't have enough mesh or vertices to display these textures properly. So let's go into the edit mode. Currently the top section has only 3 vertices, so let's select these and let's subdivide, and let's increase the subdivisions to about 5. And if we now look again, and you can see that the image has improved a bit. We still get some wobbling, so let's again go to the edit mode. Let's subdivide it again to 3 times maybe. So this should solve our problem. So now you can see that the texture is smooth overall. Okay, let's now do this to the other materials as well. What I'm gonna do is select these nodes. Let's copy them, change the slot to bottom, and let's paste the nodes in. Just connect the base color, and I'm going to do this to all the other nodes as well. Let's check our results, and the top section, the bottom section, the pipes, and the handrails. We can change the scaling for handrails, and it seems too stretched, so let's increase this a bit to about 0.2, and this is still stretched. Let's do 0.3, 0.5, and this looks to be smooth. Okay, for the vertical poles, we need to unwrap the original object that we created, and that object is being instanced on the curve points. So let's go to the vertical poles, and we'll have to apply the skin modifier. Let's disable the mirror modifier for now, and let's go into the edit mode. Let's select everything and press U to Smart UV Project, and in the Material tab, let's create a material slot, and let's select Vertical Poles Material. Now we did copy the nodes from the other materials. Let's delete these, select the image and press Ctrl T to get the mapping nodes, and we now have the UV texture applied to it. The resolution, the texture density is too high, so let's go to 0.5, and this looks okay. Let's enable the mirror modifier and see how this looks on the object. Texture density still is a bit high. Let's reduce it to 0.3, and this should be fine. Now for the pipe clamps, we'll have to do the same for this object as well. Let's go into the edit mode and select everything. Smart UV project. Again, create a material slot in the material tab and select the pipe clamps material. Again, we'll have to delete these tabs, and let's select this image texture and press Ctrl T to get your mapping nodes. Let's adjust the texture density. This still is a bit high. Let's go to 2.2. And this looks okay. We've got that wobbly texture issue on the bottom part as well, so let's increase the resolution for the bottom curve. We have some textures towards the end which defines the curve. Let's go into the add select mode and select the middle edges. Press W and let's subdivide it by, let's say, 8, and this should give us the required resolution, and we still need to increase this, so let's do subdivide it by 2 more times. This looks good, and the texture is fine as well. So we have successfully unwrapped our model, and we'll now try to texture this in the next video. Okay, see you then. Bye.